All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is Will Bridges from 123Trade. We are just about ready to get started with this week's trading session. We've got lots to talk about. Well, it seems like the government's pivoting a little bit from COVID fears to climate. That actually happens to coincide pretty well with our CAD prediction here, and I'll talk more about that as we get into this presentation here, so you guys can really understand what that means. Because, well, let's just say all things are connected. If they want us to slow down using oil, that's going to have an effect on the price of oil. Big surprise, right? But I've got an exciting session here to talk about. Seems like you guys can hear me. Good morning, everybody. Wake up. Well, some of you, I guess it's probably late, so stay awake. But we are might as well get this show on the road here. We are at 9 o'clock here. No screen buffering, so are you able to? I haven't changed the screen yet, so you haven't been able to see any change there yet. As long as the audio is good, and I think it is, seems like it is. You guys seem to be saying a lot of good mornings and stuff. So let's go ahead and get this thing rolling. Got to cover our base. Okay, what this is a risk disclaimer. If you are going to trade or continue to trade, you are going to see a lot of these. What it says is if you put your money in the Forex or any market for that matter, then your capital is at risk. You have to risk it to get the biscuit. So what you're going to see here in this session, I'm not here to tell you what to trade in your account. You're going to watch me trade my live account. And I'm going to place some trades in here. If you're watching this recording on YouTube later, it may not be the same trade that you saw this morning, because the market moves constantly. That's the cool part about Forex. If you do have questions, I'm going to cover a lot in this session here. We're going to go through some economics, a little bit of news, so we can get a little bit of a narrative for our trade ideas, because, hey, it's nice to have an idea of why something might move other than just the technicals. You don't necessarily, not everybody is that way, but I am, and I know that about myself. So it really increases my patience in the decisions that I make. So we are going to talk about that. We used to cover all sorts of topics in here. Here's a little bit of a better idea of exactly what we do. Some of you might be here for your first time. Who's here for their first time? Anybody here for their first time here today? I know we got a lot of returners. Hyacinth, Philip, Evan, how you doing? The Willard of Oz. Thanks, Evan. Appreciate that. Excellent. Well, anyways, so first things first, we assist in getting regulated, secure brokerage. So if you're looking for a broker, another account, somebody that's looking for one, there is more information on our website on 123trade.com, or you can send us an email to brokers@123trade.com and we can help you out. We have leverage available up to 500 to 1. But that said, we're going to put a lot of guidance and mentorship into these sessions on Fridays. I want you guys to see really what I do after years of trading and following thousands of other traders. So, really everybody wants to know the difference between a good trader and a bad one. Hopefully I can show you that difference, and I will do it. I will do that here today. At least I think so. Charting software, connection setup, all that stuff. We've got resources for this stuff. You don't necessarily need to come here and learn how to do that. You can go to our website and just pull up things like that. I'll pull the website up here real quick so you guys can see. And I did fix the RSS feeds on the news page. That is one resource on here that you guys are probably going to want to know about. I actually use a lot more. I rebuilt the way it works. But the YouTube channel, all that stuff, does get pulled into this YouTube page. We also have the Facebook group. You can get straight to the YouTube channel from here. If you're not subscribed to this and you want to get copies of the recordings, all that stuff, as soon as I post the recordings, then you are going to want to subscribe and get the notifications from YouTube. But otherwise, this news channel, we might as well bump over here, start getting into some actual information. And there is an ebook on here, the FX Power Pairs ebook that I wrote. And if you want to know how to use all this information, more or less turn it into a tool for you to figure out what might be a hot trend and what might not be a hot trend, what might be sideways. Okay, so that's what this ebook is here, and it's to use this page. And really, this is all the searches that I used to do. So this article up top here gets most of the traffic when you Google United States economy, at least here in the United States. Okay, so that's essentially how all of these are built, and then it's really just here so that everything can be in the same place. Okay, so I already mentioned, intelligence report warns of climate threats in all countries. They've been really scared of the climate lately. Seems like a beautiful day here. It's about 70 degrees in Florida and sunny. I want to go to the beach later, and the beach seems to be about the same distance away as it was a week ago and 30 years ago. So that said, I think they are trying to depress the price of oil in whatever way possible right now. Okay, there's lots of information about inflation. Everybody's got lots of inflation right now. If you guys do want to check this out, this is a little bit more cumbersome than I want to go through in this session. But I will pull up the economic calendar, and we're going to give a little bit of a shorthand version of the news. This is a not reading the news version of the news, as I like to call it. But, this is essentially Forex news, trading news. If you can understand this particular thing here, this calendar, then you can be pretty dangerous trading a lot of things. Okay, so BOE Governor Bailey speaks. He came out and told everybody, hey, inflation's the problem. We should probably do something to deal with it. And the pound has been strong since. Okay, New Zealand, okay, they're looking at their CPI numbers. This is high. Okay, so if we look at their quarter-over-quarter numbers, New Zealand hasn't seen inflation like this in 10 years. Okay, so they need to raise rates. They need to do something. Okay, otherwise things could get out of hand, and they could have some pretty serious inflationary issues. Oh, thanks, Evan. I got a little bit confused by the Star Trek reference there. China, okay, so their GDP, a little bit lower than expected and lower than previous. So China is slowing down big time. I don't know if you guys have heard about their housing market, but it's pretty ugly. They're afraid of a housing market crash. Could be a big reason why we're not already on the yuan as a reserve currency, because they're afraid it might crash. Okay, so that's actually good news if you're interested in keeping the dollar as a reserve currency. As an American, I certainly am. You guys may have a different opinion, and that's okay. But this does mean to me that the world economy has slowed down a little bit. This is a little bit more risk off, is really what this means. Okay, so Australia, monetary policy meeting minutes, they're still talking about waiting a really long time to raise rates. Okay, so if we click on this little button here, they aren't going to raise rates until the CPI is stable at 2 to 3%. Okay, so New Zealand is in that range, if you guys didn't see that. Okay, so I don't think that they're in 2 to 3% territory yet in Australia. Oh, it didn't want to use my back button the correct way there. So I don't think we're in that territory yet. Previously, they said that they were going to raise interest rates in 2024. Basically, what that means is the sooner that they're planning on raising interest rates, the more strength that you should see in the currency is really what I'm looking for. If you guys haven't caught on to that already, I know a lot of you guys have been here many times. But that's basically what I'm looking for. I want to know who's going to raise interest rates first, because whoever's raising rates first, big banks, major institutions might load a bunch of money in there just to make money on the interest. Okay, so that's really what that's all about. And employment change in Australia, this is a negative number. It's pretty obvious that's negative. 138,000 less jobs. That's probably something to do with the lockdowns that are happening. And I don't know. I'm not sure how unemployment can fall in that scenario, but it did. So, actually, it did come up. It did come up versus the previous. So unemployment has gone up in Australia. So that is not a good sign, not a strength signal for Australia. The U.S., we are still getting pretty strong inflation here. This is the PPI number here. You guys can see this nice beefy histogram we've got on the right over here. Okay, we haven't had it look that beefy in a long time, but then it got very low. Then we had deflation happen after that. So we could see a considerably lower amount of inflation here in the U.S. here soon, which would be interesting to say the least. And might actually bring some credence to them talking about it being transitory. But reality is that it's not transitory. Things are still going to be expensive. That's how it works. Price doesn't typically come back down when they change rental prices on a house. Let's just say in Orlando here, it's over $2,000 a month to have a 2-bedroom apartment. It wasn't that way You know, I had one for $900, you know, 7 years ago, and I lived downtown at a nice place, walking distance to everything. It is that same place is more than double the price of what it was when I lived there like a handful of years ago. It must have been 6 years ago. And that really is a recent occurrence. It hasn't happened over time. It's been relatively quick. But looking at core retail sales, these are strong. People are buying stuff. At least the way that they measure the numbers, it looks like they're buying stuff. Okay, so these numbers are good. You know, we open this up, they're increasing. You know, they're really not in bad shape. And I'm anticipating more retail sales to happen as the year finishes because, hey, Christmas is coming. It's the holiday season. And we see a little bit of what some people call the Santa Claus rally happen. So I'm going to be looking for strength in the dollar because I think spending season is here. Debt ceiling is still looming for December. And borrowing is likely to increase before interest rates go up. Okay, so that also said, I am really looking at a chance where, let's just say Australia is probably using less oil. So oil demand is probably down there. More than likely, maybe up a little bit here in the U.S. As far as Canada goes, they've got inflation that's pretty unheard of high, I think, right now. If we come back over here and we look at Canada, I think there's a, hold on a second. Was that on here today? I think it was. It may have actually been in the calendar itself. Maybe not. I think, oh, this is last week that I'm looking at here. This week. Yeah, here's the number I'm looking for. So if we click on this here, okay, Canada's inflation myths. Canada's inflation rate hits a fresh 18-year high. Okay, that's pretty serious. Inflation basically just means there's too much money and not enough goods. Okay, that's what inflation really means. Too much money, not enough goods, so prices go up because people have more money to spend. Really straightforward. But let's go ahead and get to the charts. And I want to show you guys the CAD. Okay, and let's actually, this CADJPY is definitely something we're going to come back to. We're going to go to the CADX. Okay, and first thing I want to do here is just zoom out. Let's go to the all time frame. And those of you that were here last week, you might have seen this already. And, you know, I like to make jokes, you know, never wrong, just early. Sometimes you can be 10 years early on a trade. So we may be early on this one. Who knows? I'm going to come down to my weekly. This is just the all-time range for the last 5 years is really all the data I've got on this index here. So let's come down to our weekly, get a closer look, see what happened. Maybe we check out where these closed prices were because we're not quite there. It's going to be a little bit more aggressive if I look at the closed prices. Let's come to the day chart and see if we can get another eyeball on this high, this pocket that existed over here 5 years ago. And it looks like we're right in the meat of it right now. This is what that really just screams to me. You know, there's really only two kinds of prices in the world. And, you know, this one looks like it's pretty high versus everything for the last 5 years. And reality is, you know, it did just make a slightly higher high. So this thing doesn't have to come down a ton. But the reality is it could. Okay, we're at a high price. Everybody's heard buy low and sell high before. Okay, this is a very, if oil keeps exploding, this could go up, Evan. But you know what, to your point, let's go ahead and take a look at oil. And a big reason for that, well, let's just say they produce a heck of a lot of oil in places like Alberta, Canada. Okay, so there's a lot of dependency on the price of the Canadian dollar comes down to, well, oil price. Okay, so if we're looking at this here, this is an uptrend. Okay, very much an uptrend has been. Okay, if you guys can see this broken downtrend that happened for, I don't know, 13 years. And we hit the bottom of that downtrend last year when oil actually went to negative $17 in the futures market. So, you know, this says 0 here is the bottom, 1 penny is the bottom. It really wasn't. It was negative $17. It's never happened before. Okay, so really hard to say what might happen to bring this back down or if anything can bring it back down. But let's go ahead, take a look-see here. If anything that can bring it back down, in my mind, is regulation and changes in supply. Okay, so if OPEC, for example, wanted to bring the price of oil down, they can do that pretty easily just by, well, producing more oil, putting more oil out. Okay, so oil first, metal second, you think, Evan? Well, I think that might be true. But let's go ahead and oil is going to be extremely volatile. Let's work our way down on this chart a little bit. Zoom in as we get down here. And, you know, you guys can see we're making higher highs, higher lows. So this is a long-term uptrend right now. If I draw a trend line on the inside here, okay, we've already broken it. We're kind of on a backside test area right now. We haven't made our new high on the right-hand side. Okay, if we come down to the daily time frame, we're a little bit more sideways. We don't have yet a confirmed high. We almost had one, actually. It does look like we had one. This right here is a confirmed high. Go ahead and circle that one, because we've got 2 to the left and 2 to the right. This is on the daily chart. Maybe an early signal. Okay, we're also right at the extension level right now. So we are a little bit broken out. This is on our daily time frame. So this really could be go time. This could be our correction Friday move that we're looking for. And the market could come back down. And in my mind, we've got lots of demand that happened in this area here. Okay, just go ahead and draw this. Okay, there's a lot of demand in that area. Okay, so very good chance that we can get back into the 60s. Okay, I don't think that's a long-term outlook that I would want to have, as far as it, you know, being something that stays down there or gets much lower, unless they really bring on the tyranny sometime in this next few months, maybe years. But reality, this price down here all the way at 76, that's $7 away. Okay, so that's almost a 10% rip on oil. Okay, so if that happens, it's a big opportunity. We're at the AB boundary right now. Okay, so what that tells me is if this oil trade comes back down to our 236, which in my experience and the way that I trade my strategy is very high probability. I mean, I would think something like 90% chance we get back down to $76. Okay, there's about an 80% chance in my mind we get back down to 72.6, and obviously, you know, this 66.75 price is entirely possible also. There's really no reason why it has to continue to rise unless the powers that be want that to happen. Okay, so really no way to know for sure. I do know that we're at high prices on both of these. Let's go ahead and look at a Canadian dollar pair. Okay, and I had one up here when we started the session. And let's CADJPY. Okay, and this one I think looks real fun for a lot of reasons. Let's come to the all-time frame. Okay, we are at a relatively bullish candle right now. This looks a lot like oil, if you guys can tell. Okay, you guys remember that? Remember this broken trend line here? Oop, hold up. Get that a little bit more snug. See, we're a little bit of a mess situation over here. We did break out. Okay, we did make a new high. We've continued to make new highs. Okay, so this is a heck of a call. If this actually plays out the way we want, at least it looks that way. Okay, so the thing you guys need to understand is that trend lines break all the time. Okay, there was one there, and then the market fell like a rock. Okay, we're talking a lot of pips. We're talking from 85 all the way down to, you know, 75. That's a 1,000 pip drop. Okay, as soon as it broke that trend line, it did the same thing when it did it over here. Okay, so, and you can look at that back in time also. There's another break. That was a really very bearish candle that happened. Okay, so this trend line showing us this continued uptrend. Maybe doesn't matter a ton, especially when you go ahead and look at something like this level of previous, call it support, in this area. Okay, so we're at that level. Previous support likes to become future resistance, and this market's been sideways for the last 5 years, and we're at the top of the range. Here's the range that got formed years ago. We're right at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to a slightly lower time frame. Let's look at the daily. Okay, and at the daily, we've got a strong bearish engulfing candle that just happened yesterday. Okay, so I'm going to come down to an even lower time frame. Let's come down to our 4 hour. Well, Evan, inflation's difficult to gauge right now because everybody's got so much. It's kind of an inflation party worldwide right now. It's really a war on the people from the banks, if you want my opinion. We haven't quite broken to the right side of this trend line yet. This could be a false high. But end of the day, there's really no way to know that. The only way that I'm going to make my decision is what might be my opportunity on the bottom? And realistically speaking, have we started to make lower lows and lower highs yet? And what I'm looking at here is that we have. Okay, what I'm looking at here is that we have, and I'll give you guys a little bit better idea of what I mean by that. Okay, I got a King's Crown, I think, up top here. I guess this would be there's our little King's Crown, if you guys can see that. But the reality of the situation, okay, this thing could do a lot of things. Okay, so I'm going to trade with a stop loss, but I am going to look to sell this, and I'm probably going to do it right now. And I might just do something simple, like come to the top here and pull a Fibonacci. Okay, so now, okay, if I come down to, let's just say, maybe my 1 hour time frame. That doesn't look like a great place for me to put a stop loss. Let's try, this is more of a breakout looking trade that we haven't hit. I kind of like this. Let's get this green line down here at 91. Stop loss. Okay, maybe we put that. Oh, here's our current market price. So we need to keep that in mind here for sure. And I need a stop loss. Okay, so usually I like to start with it outside of my AB boundary so I can figure out how would be the best way for me to manage this trade. What would be the absolute best place for me to get into this? And really, in my mind, it's up here. Okay, that's really where I would want to get in. Okay, so maybe I can't do that right now. Okay, but that's okay. The other option that I have to figure out where my exit price might be, because that's not super aggressive. For this big run up that we had, you know, I could probably aim a little bit lower than that and make my life less stressful. Okay, so let's come back to a slightly higher time frame. Let's look on the daily. And let's just pull a Fibonacci all the way from the bottom here. Okay. And all the way from the bottom here, we do have a significant level here that you guys can also see this price pocket right here at this blue line. Okay, so that may be where I want to aim. And the reason why I might want to aim there is because that is previous resistance, okay, that I might expect to become future support. We haven't come there yet, but it's happened a few times. You guys can see that 3 times. We haven't come back and tested that price yet. So I think we get back there. I think that's entirely possible. So now I've got a much more reasonable place to aim than I did before. So I don't necessarily have to be as much of a cheapskate with my risk. We are a little bit at the edge of this breakout that's already happened. Okay, so this really does seem like a much better trade now that I can aim further. Okay, and if it does dig against me, I could always have a second order. That's the thing. Everybody always thinks, oh gosh, if I get in now, then I'm not going to get in at the best price. You know, it's not always about that. Okay, I can get in at both of these. I would be totally happy to get into both of these prices. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to split up my order. I'm going to make this small. Okay, there's only like $1,400 in this account. So realistically speaking, I don't want to have a bunch of huge trades. If you guys want to look at the peso, we can do that. I don't typically like to trade it though because the spread is high. It's expensive to trade. At least it is in my account. So I don't do that a ton. And it does require a heck of a lot of margin also. But generally, let's go ahead and keep on moving here. Stop, limit, okay? And I'm going to make this easy on myself. I'm just going to pick pip numbers here. Okay, 100, 200, whatever, sell. It's the right amount. Cool, should pop up on the screen here. Now I've got my entry. Okay, I've got my take profits way down here low, so I'm going to click that and drag it up to where I actually want it. Here's my stop loss, a little higher than I want. Click it, drag it where I want it. Okay, now I'm in the trade. I've got a stop loss set up where I want. My pending order, we can go ahead and set this pending sell as well. So when the market, if the market gets there, because I don't know that it will, it's going to put me in at 92.653. Okay, and my stop and my limit, I'm going to type in these values. We'll say 93. And my limit, we're going to talk about 91.01. Actually, I guess it'd be 0.08. We'll do the 91.08. Okay, and that is a 5-to-1 opportunity if we do get in there. So I'm going to go ahead and place this order. Okay. So now I've got a pending order set up. I'm already in this trade live. I just jumped in it. I've got other CAD pairs already open that I wasn't in, that I've already been in. And I took some profit on a few of them throughout the week. Okay, so this EURCAD I think is one of the best ones on here. We are going to need to look at the pound USD because we have been a little bit drawn down on that one. Actually, that seems like the one thing holding us back right now is that pound USD. And let's just say we're still in it. We're still within our plan. So a lot of people look at drawdown and they think, oh my gosh, the world's falling apart. But we're still within my stop loss. I planned for that. So I'm not going to stress about it. If you are stressed about it, it's because you're trading it too heavy. Because personally, let's just say I just bought a house. The $50 that we're looking at here that my account is waving does not bother me. So if we come to our EURCAD, let's look at this one. Ooh. Hold on, what? There we go. EURCAD. Okay, and you guys can see I've already loaded into this one 3 times. Okay, so, and you'll see here why in a second. Let's go ahead and eliminate some stuff here so you guys can see, because I've got a bunch of order lines on here. It makes it a little bit confusing. I'll leave the arrow markers so you guys can see where I got in. And this thing did come down pretty heavy this month. And, we're going to crunch this down really the last few years so you guys can get an idea of what's been going on the last few years. And there's really 2 kinds of trading. You're either looking for some kind of a range or you're looking for some kind of a trend. Okay, and ranges are based on where the market's turned around before. Okay, so if I look at this here, have the bottom of my, let's just say the top of this box gets hit a ton. And if I aim even lower, let's just say if I maybe pull the top of my box down, those prices above get hit a ton. Okay, a lot. They've been hit many times, pretty much every year for the last 8 years. Okay, so if I know that, then that might mean to me that I've got something like, 740 pips to the top of the box. The last time we hit this same price we're at now was right here, okay, and the market went really far, okay, really far. We're talking about, 1,650 pips. This could be a nasty move. Could be absolutely nasty, okay? So when I say nasty, I mean awesome, okay? So that being said, let's come down to the day chart. Take a look at what's going on. We had this giant fall happen, okay? And I would say we would be catching a falling knife where I decided that I wanted to buy it last week. But that being said, it doesn't seem like a terrible place so far. Let's come down to the 4 hours. See if we've got a little trend line break maybe. And it does look like we do, okay? So here's our trend, okay? There it is. You guys can see that. Okay, we are on the right side of this trend line. And, that's our confirmation that this thing might be coming up. It might be go time. Okay, there is a ton of reasons to believe that this thing can come up. And I'm already in this one 3 times or so. So I'm just going to show you guys if I wasn't already in this one. Okay, I like to make this joke all the time, but never wrong, just early. And if we lose this trade, we might just be a couple of years too early. But hey, that's part of trading. That's part of life. But in looking at this here, there's a big opportunity, even if we just trade back to the meat of this market in the middle. If at 146, that's hundreds of pips away. Okay, and that's an entirely plausible price for us to go sideways, especially given the fact that we turned around big time at this price years ago. Okay, so this is not a big risk. Okay, I'm already in this one, versus the potential reward, at least in my opinion. Okay, and if we measure this wave here, if we kind of guess and say, hey, this is the bottom, okay, really, this 382 level is probably the most high probability after this 236 level, which is also tradable from this price. Okay, because if we come down to the 2-hour time frame, okay, and we take a closer look at this here, we've got lots of lower lows. We don't actually have to be this far away with our stop loss if we don't want to be. We could be a little bit higher than that. We've got better than a 2-to-1 just back to our 236. Okay, so in my opinion, this is a fantastic trade and one that I might let run for a while. Okay, so what I may do in a situation like this is go ahead and turn on an automation. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the Right Trader Max because I like this one. Visualization, I'm only going to look for buys. Okay, I don't want it to do anything but buy. Okay, I'm going to have a max trades of 2, and I need to pick how much money I want it to get in with. Lot size, initial blue ribbon lot size, let's say 0.01. Okay, and we'll make this a 0.01. Okay, so I'm only going to open up 0.02 in here. This is going to be a relatively small trade if it opens, and it's going to just sit here and wait for me and, you know, do my job for me because I want to look for places to buy. And it's not quite, the Right Trader Max hasn't decided to be in the buy zone yet. Okay, just so everybody's aware, Right Trader Max hasn't decided to be in the buy zone. So this is probably not going to open for me. Well, it really shouldn't open for me until we get out of this shaded gray area that's below. And I'll get rid of my box that's outside here so you guys can actually see that with the system itself. And if you guys want to try any of these systems out there, actually, I think some of them are recommended on our page on our website. If you guys want to check any of those out. This is a Chris Pulver system. I think Chris Pulver and Gary actually came up with this last one. Well, years ago, it had been a Chris Pulver deal, and then it became a Chris and Gary thing because they kind of collaborated on this most recent one. But I'm a big fan. Okay, so I would be looking for green candles outside of this gray area here. And the longer this thing goes sideways, the sooner it decides to start telling me that it's an uptrend and start thinking about buying. Okay, so I'm going to leave this chart be. Okay, I'm going to zoom out, make sure I get as much data in here as it needs. Okay, let it go back here and paint. Okay, so now it should have more data, and we should be good to go. Okay, so I'm going to just minimize this chart. Okay, I'm going to come in over here, and I'm going to use a different one. And we're going to go look at another CAD pair. Let's go ahead and check out our GBPCAD. And this one looks like it may be a lot of fun. What I'm looking at here, and actually we'll come down to the weekly, it might be easier to see here. Okay, this is what I'm looking at. You guys can see this here. Okay, if you guys can see all these turnarounds that happened at the bottom, close to this price we're at now, we've got a spinning top push from last week. That's what this little green candle down here at the bottom is. Okay, that is a spinning top push all day. Okay, big wicks, thin in the middle, very much equidistant from well, let's just say the body is pretty much, the wicks are the same size in the top and the bottom. It's pretty much what it looks like to me. Not perfect, but that's good enough for me. But bottom line, this thing's been a pinball in this range. So I'm going to come down to my day. And I already like this opportunity more. We're starting to make higher highs and higher lows. We are at a low price right now. Okay, so this looks almost the same as what we just looked at on the EURCAD. Okay, so very much a similar looking trade idea. Okay, we are on the right hand side, and we've already made some support on the right hand side of our trend line. Okay, that is really what I'm paying the most attention to, is that we've got support right over here. Okay, and we are at a low price. This thing's been falling for the last day or so. But however, that doesn't mean that I'm going to change my strategy in any way, shape, or form. What I may do is just go ahead and pull a fib here. Okay, and we've already hit the 618, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that for my strategy, I want to aim at this 1618 level above. That is a couple hundred pips away, maybe 150 pips away, 160 pips away. I like to get a blue line on here. This blue line is going to be my current market price. I just need that for reference so that I can see how big my risk reward is. I need a stop loss outside the AB boundary. There are lots of lows above that. So realistically, if this thing does continue downward, I want to lose this trade and get out of the way. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and buy it right now. Okay, and I'm going to keep these trades small. Okay, and I'm just going to do this. I'll actually measure this so you guys can have an idea of how much risk I'm actually going to take. It's 158 pips. Okay, 107. So let's say 107 in risk, 158 in opportunity. Okay, so a 0.01, this currency cross, talking about something like 8 cents per price interest point. So I'd be risking $8 to make something like 12. Okay, so if I click buy right now, I'm risking a sandwich to try to get 1.5 sandwiches, and I'm not going to sweat about that for a second. Okay, so if you want to trade heavier than that, not at all. Well, lighter than that's not really an opportunity. You can't really do that. Okay, that's as small as you can go. I mean, you can really do whatever you want. Okay, you get to decide how much risk you take. So if you're freaking out about your risk ever, it's because you took too much of it. Okay, so we're in this trade now. Let's go and look at this GBPUSD. Oh, they changed the way that you search for these. This is throwing me off of my game a little bit here. All right, so let's go to the all-time frame here first. Okay, and if we take a look at this here, okay, I'm going to do the same thing you guys just saw me do a few times on pretty much every other chart. Okay, here's a rectangle. Okay, I'm looking for lots of ranges right now. Okay, and I'm going to use the meat of this market down here. The reason I like this rectangle tool is because it forces me to use my eyeballs to see where prices have moved and changed and turned around in the past. And this is what I'm looking at. Okay, that's really what I'm looking at. My mind, I think that there's a good shot that, well, since the market's fallen half the time and really more down than up in the last 6 months, I still think there's going to be lots of demand on the US dollar. I think there was some profit taking that happened here recently. But that being said, you know, we've got a little bit of a pattern over here. I'll show you guys as well. Here was a broken trend, and then the market fell. Broken trend, market fell. Okay, now we've got a broken trend. This could be our next fall, especially considering when we zoom in here. Okay, I've got a little bit of a dark cloud cover formation that's formed right here in the last couple of days. Okay, so we are at a point where this thing could decide to take a big lift to the north or a big fall to the bottom. Okay, there's really no way to know for sure which one's going to happen. If there was, let's just say it probably wouldn't exist for very long because everybody would be doing it, and then there would be new strategies to take advantage of it, and that's just how the world goes. Okay, so I'm going to pull this Fibonacci from the bottom. Okay, we're in a little bit of the no man's land on the 4 hour. I like to check the daily on all of these as well. We're at the extension level on our daily chart. Okay, so we zoom in here. We actually did go a little higher than the extension. Oop. Get this open back up a little bit. Okay, so we did hit our extension level. Okay, I haven't really come back down. So if I use a manual tool to look and see where maybe my 382 price is, okay, that's down here. And we'll make this green. Okay, we have not yet hit this 382. Okay, so to me, what it looks like is that we may have just bounced off this 236. I think that we're on the way down to this 382. There's other big turnarounds that happened at this price, like right here, for example, and also over here. Okay, and there's another one here. We just keep finding more of them. Okay, that price seems to me to be something that the market likes to come down and make a tap. Okay, and it may actually want to come even lower. It may come down to this 618 level. Okay, but that being said, no way to know for sure. I do know that this thing is making lower lows, okay, and lower highs, because if we go back and we look in time, let's go ahead and draw a few of these so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Okay, are we a little bit above our trend line? Yes. Are we making lower highs? Yes. Come down to our 4 hour time frame. Okay, we've got a double top here, and well, basically these highs are basically the same height. Okay, we're talking about another new one that may form here. It's actually already formed, I think, on our lower time frame if we come down to our 2 hour. Okay, and we are getting some very bearish signals that are happening right now. So in my mind, this thing is a sell, has been in the long term. I'm going to stick in these trades. I'm not trying to lose these trades. They're really the only thing keeping me from being profitable right now. But that being said, we're still within my trade plan. Okay, so if you're not already in this trade and you would be looking for a place to get in, let's actually get a blue line on here for current market price. I'm going to get rid of this range that we've got here so you guys can see. Oop. Hold on, get rid of this gray box. All right. And let's come down to our 1 hour. And let's actually just go ahead and pull a smart resistance here. Okay, so I've got lots of levels above here. Okay, if I want to use 4 levels of resistance, I can do that from up here. Okay, which is, well, not the best trade on earth, you know, when it comes to risk reward, because you're talking about risking something like, I don't know, 44 pips to try to get 55. So better than a 1-to-1, but not quite, you know, like a 1.5 to 1, anything like that. Some people are going to wait for this thing to come up a little bit more. That's kind of a trader's choice. You know, some people may want to enter this thing twice and look to do it somewhere above. You know, maybe you choose a level like that. Okay, so that way, if the market does dig against you, then you can have a much better risk reward ratio and average down your entry cost. Okay, so 71 pips. Okay, and you're only going to be risking 30 pips at this level. So a 2-to-1 there, you'd basically be averaging it out to a 1.5 to 1 if you took both of these trades. So that's really what I would be looking to do in this type of situation if I wasn't already in it, and probably more than I probably should have been to begin with. Okay, so NZDCAD, okay, this is another one I want to check up on. And this one is making its way downward right now. This one may actually be taking a little bit of a break. Let's go to our day chart here. Maybe a little higher. Let's go to the week. Okay, if you guys can tell, this thing's super sideways, has been for years. Okay, and if we actually zoom out a little bit more, give you guys a little bit better idea of what I think is actually happening with this thing long term. Okay, so there's the outer line here. There's my divorce line. I like to call it the I don't want to see you again for 10 years line. Okay, that seems to be our upward channel. Okay, for the last, I don't know, 14 years. We're at a little bit of a low price right now. And if I want to take a look at, you know, where the trend line breaks happened before, there's one there. Here's another one right here. Okay, so in my mind, this thing is going to work its way up. Okay, we are on the right side of this counter trend line break. Long term, it's been an uptrend. I don't see any reason why it has to necessarily come down, but it could. Okay, so no credence in the world. We could be a couple weeks early on this one. There's really no way to know for sure until you come down to the lower time frame. Okay, and the reality of this situation is over here, we've been in this kind of range. This is where we've been living lately. Okay, that's more or less what I think our dominant price range would be. Okay, we've got other turnarounds that happened at this price we're at now. So if I was, well, let's just say I'm already in this one, it could continue to come up. It's been coming up for every day except for the last couple, you know, out of the last 7, 8. Okay, so we come down to our day chart. We're now on our 4-hour chart, I should say. Okay, we are getting a relatively bearish move right now. Okay, so what this means to me is that we might have created a range because we do have a true high up top here. Okay, this could be our new range. We just bounced off of this 236 of. Okay, it could come down to our 382, could come all the way down to our 618. I probably want to load into this thing more. I'm not necessarily looking to get out of this trade because, well, let's just say I really believe, and I also can afford the risk. Okay, so I may look to enter it again. And actually, let's go ahead and show where my active order is. Okay, so my active order, I got in somewhere close to the price we're at right now. Somewhere very close to where we're at right now. Do I have a stop loss on here? It doesn't look like I do. I don't. I do not. So let's add that. Let's just say 100, 200. And be real lazy, and then I'm just going to click and drag this thing where I actually want it. Okay, so that's where my stop loss is right there, and my limit above. Okay, there's all of my prices I just dumped in just now. So now I have a take profit level that I'm going to pull into my extension level here. Make sure I have that at the right price. Okay, and now I need to get my stop loss, ideally outside of my AB boundary, because I don't want to get stopped out. Okay, so I'm outside of that AB boundary, and if I want to enter this thing again, I'm going to do this maybe pending order setup, as long as I don't have one. Looks like I do have one. Let's go ahead and show that. And very much at the lower levels already. So I'm going to leave those as is. But realistically speaking, this is what I'm looking at. If you guys aren't already in this one, okay, I'm looking to be outside of that range there. This is more or less the move I'm looking at. Stop loss below, potential take profit above, and just maintaining this range. Okay, so this thing could continue much higher than that, in my opinion, but I'm already looking for a few hundred pips. I don't need to be any more aggressive than I feel like I may already be. Okay, so that said, let's check out this this is pending orders. Sorry, let's get over to our AUDCAD. Another one I may want to check out. Okay, and this one has been doing what we want so far. If you guys can look at this one here, organize this one up. We're up somewhere around 78 pips right now. So I do have an option. I could take some profit right now, or I could let it run. Okay, that's really kind of a trader's choice in this situation. What I'm going to do, first and foremost, is make sure I have a stop loss and a limit, because it does look like I had a pending order open up and put me into this trade here and get rid of my stop loss. But there we go. That's what I'm looking at. This is a 123 here. For those of you guys that are wondering what 123Trade is all about, that's what I would be looking for. Okay, so that being noted, okay, if I zoom in here, I'm going to delete that last shape I just drew because it's useless. Okay, we're in uptrend territory because, hey, we're on the right side of this trend line here, and we're above it on the right side. We're on the right side of this counter trend line break, and we are above the trend line on the right side of the counter trend. Okay, so all of those things noted, this thing could very easily come back down and get into this meat market down here. When I say meat market, I mean there's lots of demand down here. Okay, so we could come back down and tap those prices. So it does look like I have a pending buy order down here at a slightly lower price. Okay, so what I may do is just go ahead and take, these 70 pips. See you later. Okay, and now, I've got a pending order set up at the lower price. Okay, and I'm just going to leave that there. I may dump this down a little bit lower. Okay, so if this market decides to take a little bit of a breather, I'm going to reload. I already took profit on the move upward, and that's really going to be it. I'm going to go ahead and add a stop loss take profit on here and do this 100, 200 game again. Okay, and now I've got those. I've got my stop loss below here. I've got my level above. I'm just going to bring into these highs, so I don't have to worry about necessarily breaking out of this range. Okay, and now, if this thing does fall down a little bit, I'm going to enter it again. Hopefully win both of these trades. If it doesn't come down and it just decides to go up, I still have part of my position running in the trade. Okay, so that's really the important part to me, is that I don't want to dump my winner. And, well, if it's trending upward and it's going my direction, then I really want to make sure that I'm capturing that profit. And if it gets the better price, I want that better price. Okay, so pound CAD, pound USD, NZDCAD, we've already looked at all of these. Okay, let me go ahead and take a look here. Oil is tearing. Let's check it out. Or excuse me, silver is silver. Let's check out XAG. USD. Okay, so silver. Oh, this is XAGX. I need XAG USD. Sorry. Silver versus the dollar. Okay. And silver is tearing. It's at 25 bucks right now. That's pretty awesome. Okay, and this is our broken trend line here. Okay, we do have an outer trend above, okay, that I do want to make sure that we point out. I don't necessarily think that we're going to get above this 26 price. Very well could. Don't get me wrong, but let's come to the all-time frame. I think you guys need a little bit better idea, and so do I, of what's going on with silver in general. Okay, so silver, very high demand for things like silver, and very likely that it could be higher right now than it is for the rest of the year. It's the holiday season. You know, there's going to be a lot of electronics sold in the next 2 months, and a third of all silver production goes to producing things like iPhones, okay, Teslas. There is a lot of silver in everything electronic. Yeah, Philip, we'll check out that pound yen and the EURNZD here in a second. But I wanted to jump into silver here just because I think this one is going to be interesting. But really, silver has been doing, you know, they had this downtrend for years. Okay, lately we've been on an uptrend. It was sideways for many years in between, actually, pretty much in this range. Okay, so that was our range that started. It was formed all the way back here in 2013, and the bottom of it formed in 2014. Okay, so we broke out of that. We hot stoved it. We bounced off of that range. That doesn't mean it can't get down to this one. Okay, it could very easily get down to 20 bucks. Silver gets down to 20 bucks. I think it's a buy with both hands. Okay, but right now we're getting this kind of double bottom and a big move. Okay, so let's come down to our week. And we are very much sideways in here. Okay, we are at a level where we previously had a lot of resistance. Okay, so if you're not in this buy position already, I don't think it's a great idea, at least not right now, because we are about to hit this high, and we may see a little bit of a dip. Okay, and if I think that might happen, I may want to buy it at the lower price. Come down to our day chart here. So you guys can see we were at this high recently. This could be a pivot for silver where we could decide to come up a lot higher. Okay, because typically if we draw, let's go ahead and see if we can find a pattern here. Okay, so here's the trend line break. Okay, this may be the same thing that we're looking at over here on the right. Okay, so last time that we had something this big, really the breakout happened all the way back here in December of 2020. Okay, so that was leading up to all the COVID madness. And then we had, you know, a silver shortage. There was a lot of people trying to drive up the value of silver, silver stackers to deplete the, well, it was kind of the GameStop revolution. It's really what the next move was. It was to try to take out the silver bears. That didn't happen. The market did get up pretty high, but it did get pushed right back down. Okay, so that being said, you know, this could come up more. In my opinion, we're at kind of no man's land right now because we are at a previous high. So if I pull this fib range here, maybe the target ends up somewhere around here around this 25 range. 25 bucks I think is about as high up as I would want to go, especially if we come over and we try to look and see where that coincides. So let's actually delete that and put a horizontal line in here at that level. Make that green. Then we got a little breadcrumb for ourselves. Come to our daily. Okay, there's lots of turnarounds at that price. Okay, so 25 bucks feels like where I might give up on buying something like silver, because we got lots of turnarounds here. Okay, you guys get the point. Lots of them. Okay, so I'm not aiming any higher than that. I think it's probably a better idea to try to short silver once it gets there, okay, because there's a better risk reward ratio, and that trade might look something like this. Ooh, you get a green line on here. Okay, and we may just play the bottom of this range one more time. Okay, so obviously no gospel in the world, but in my opinion, that seems like the move that I might want to make given what silver's been doing and how much institutions have been pushing it down. As far as the Mexican peso goes, okay, I know you've asked me for this a couple of times, so I guess I can do it for you. I've got time to do a couple more. I think there's I think it was the pound JPY. Somebody wanted, yeah, pound JPY and the EURNZD. So we'll look at this Mexican peso here for a second, and then we'll move on. But yeah, basically, USD is falling versus the Mexican peso. It could have a lot to do with the silver market. But that being said, you know, if you think that these two things are correlated, because they kind of are, then this might be your bottom right here. Okay, and that's not a whole lot of pesos away. Okay, that could happen very quickly. This is a day chart. That could happen by tomorrow. You know, realistically, I guess tomorrow's Saturday, but maybe something like Sunday, Monday, we could be at this bottom, and that might be where I would want to turn around, similar to what we looked at on silver here before. So if we wanted to play this range, then this may be the trade you look for on something like the Mexican peso. And I'm not going to trade this one. I don't really typically like to trade this one, strictly because the spread is high, and I'm a cheapskate, and I don't want to pay a lot of money to place a trade. But really, that's what I would be looking for in this scenario. That might be a great position to get into. Totally up to you. You guys have a lot more leverage than I do here in the United States as well, especially if you've got 400 to 1. It might make more sense to make moves on things like this than it does for me here in the United States. So I'm not telling you that you shouldn't trade this pair. All I'm telling you is that with the settings, the rules, regulations here in the US, really not my favorite thing to do. You want the 200 and the 50 MA. And those of you that don't use a whole lot of indicators, okay, this is how you turn it on. Okay, so if I want a moving average, we'll go simple. I just added 3 of them. I only wanted 2. So let's go ahead and adjust these. Let's do the 200. Save. And this one would be 50. And we did just get across here. Okay, so what that means to me is that we might be, well, let's just say we might be changing trend direction. Okay, so it's really what that means. This looks like a backside test to me, more so than anything else. Okay, so if we look at this trend line here, okay, this has been sideways ever since we broke that. Okay, and then it's really just been this range. I'm just looking for a pattern on all these charts. Everybody's got a different flavor of how they like to look at things, but I just feel like we've been working that channel, and that's really what I would be aiming to do. So you can get into the indicator crosses and all that stuff. My opinion, I think there's a, well, as far as for this situation goes, I think that the line makes it pretty clear. But let's go ahead and get this GBPJPY. This one does look like it's been taking a little bit of a break for the last couple of days. Let's come to our all-time frame. This thing does look like it just broke out, okay, on our monthly chart. So could very well be a really solid buy opportunity if there's ever been one. We did just break this high over here. And if anything, this might be a good hedge for us on our pound USD short. So let's go ahead and check out maybe our weekly time frame. We are looking rather bullish. Okay, we are hitting a level of resistance. Okay, if you guys can see this here, this is our 118. That's our level of resistance that we're bouncing off right now. Okay, so that being noted, I may want to figure out how far this thing may come down from this more recent low. Okay, because we are getting a king's crown at the top, and we are making a little bit of a dip. So reality is, okay, if I wanted to be conservative and trade this thing in a way that, well, let's just say I don't have to worry about it. This is really the important part for me, because there's nothing more important to me than not having to think about this after this session is over. Because I don't want to have to care about it. I want the market to do the work while I'm gone. Okay, so that's really what I would be looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set up a pending order here. This is a pending buy, and we're going to set this for 155.2. Okay, stop loss 153.537 and 159.6. Okay, so this is about a $12, $13 risk with my 0.01 position here. Should this thing decide to enter, I'm going to go ahead and click on the place order button. And this is a pending order. Okay, so I'm not in this trade. This is one that I just set up for later. If this thing comes down and gets into my, well, more attractive price zone, then I'm going to buy it. That's really all that means. Okay, so I'm going to basically not do anything. The system's going to sit here and wait for me. I've got one more that I'll show you guys, and then I got to get out of here. I've got EURNZD. Haven't looked at this one for a couple of days. Could do this thing all the way through real quick. Give everybody a nice good look at this one. Looks like fun. Does look like we could be trying to catch a bottom right now. Let's go to the all time frame. Okay, and zoom out. I want the 10,000 foot perspective on this thing. And this is very much what I was looking at on the EURCAD. Okay, so that said, you know, we are making for the last year or so lower and lower lows. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stay that way. Okay, so if we look at current market price and how that works out, let's come down to our slightly lower time frame so we can get a closer eyeball on this and where it's bouncing, because it's bouncing right now off of this price over here. For the last day or so, this price for some reason mattered a lot. Okay, and here's the reason why. It's because there's lots of turnarounds at that price, okay, in the past. Okay, so if I know that, and I know there's been lots of turnarounds there, okay, there could be a good chance for me to trade counter trend against the trend on this downstroke. So let's come down to maybe, just zoom in here. We're on our day. We're at our extension level from the top. You guys can see that. That is our extension. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull a manual fib tool here. And I'm going to expect this thing to come back to at least my 236, which is going to be right up here. Okay, and that is at 166. That's hundreds of pips away. Okay, so now what I want to do is get a blue line, current market price. Okay, my stop loss, I'm going to put it outside of my extension level from my Fibonacci tool. Okay, so now if I come down to my, say, 2-hour chart, I should be able to get a good look at exactly what I want to do here. I'm going to dump this box because I don't need it. And really, I mean, this price above looks pretty attractive at 166. We are making higher highs, higher lows. Right now, this looks like a buy. I think I'm in like Flynn. And I'm going to go ahead and set a market order on this one. We'll do a 0.01. We're going to make this a nice small trade. Okay, and my risk reward, let's measure that, make sure we're cool with it. Yeah, I'm looking for 345 pips. I'm going to risk 146. I'm all about it. Okay, so 345. You know, hey, I don't necessarily have to win this trade, but I think there's a high probability I do. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And I guess, well, we can maybe do one more. Do one more. I know. I always tell everybody it's the last one. USDJPY. I think we actually have an active trade on, so we should probably check this out. Let me actually check this out. And I don't have a trade going here. So let's go ahead. Looks like this last one worked out okay. This breakout trade we had here. Actually, that does look like that's a pending order opportunity. Let's go ahead and delete that. All right, perfect. Let's come down to our monthly chart. Okay, and what I'm looking at on the monthly chart here, make this real abundantly clear, obvious for everybody. Okay, that's what I'm looking at. That's it. Okay, and the reason why is because the market turned around at this price here. Okay, oh, hold up. Lock this up right here. Hold on a second. Why is it not letting me do that? There we go. That's what I want right there. Okay, these prices have been hit hard in the past. Okay, so and reality is if you drag this box over, a lot of times you're going to find the same thing in the past. You come back here a long time ago. Okay, so really this price was popular all the way back here. Okay, basically where we are right now is we're not at the top of this box at current market price. We're basically at this price that the market fell in 1994 right now. Okay, and it also happened to have done that, you know, in 2018 and 2017, a few different times. Okay, so in my mind, this is a decent price to look to start selling because it is kind of at the top of our range. And if we come down to our weekly time frame, okay, we did fall for this week. Okay, let's come check out our day. We did fall the last few days. Okay, so all of those things noted, let's go ahead and pull a fib here. This is a counter trend move that we're looking at right now because this thing has been moving up. Maybe the fib on the weekly will be better for us. Not quite useful. I might leave a breadcrumb for myself though on this line here. If I find a price I think might be impactful, then usually I like to keep it. There's one right there that seems to get hit well every year. So I may want to aim there at 111. That's 250 pips shy of where we are right now. So let's come down to our day chart. Okay, I'm going to zoom out here. I'm going to get my smart resistance above so we can see where those lines are. Looks like there's a bunch of them. Okay, so I may use that for my stop loss. Right above there. And my current market price, just for perspective purposes, is right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click sell right now. And I'm going to go ahead and risk 194 pips to try to capture 245. I may actually narrow my pips in a little bit. Let's see on my risk. I don't really like that risk reward a whole lot. I could probably get away with this closer price. We got 3 levels of resistance above that. 108. That does seem like a much, well, a $10 risk to try to make 24. Sounds much more fun. I'm going to go ahead and click on sell. Because I've got lots of highs. I mean, I've got a bunch of them. So, end of the day, it could come up a little bit higher. If I come down to my 2-hour chart, I didn't show you guys this, but we do have a King's Crown that has formed up here, and we are starting to get lower lows, lower highs. Probably should have showed you guys this before I just made my decision, but that's really what I'm looking at. Okay, these lower highs, lower lows. Okay, and I think that our next lower low could be somewhere like down here. Okay, so there's going to be a lot more of these to come. Okay, I'm expecting this thing, really to make a move for a little while. And really, there's more than likely going to be a big push on the dollar sometime in November, once we get closer to this debt ceiling. But there may be a little bit of a reprieve here for a few days. It seems to be that way at least. But I'm already in this trade. I'm going to try to ride this thing as far as I can. Otherwise, we are just about out of time here today, folks. So I do appreciate everybody coming out, checking out our session. If you haven't already, if you guys enjoy coming to these trading sessions and you like the service we put on, come here to the Google machine and give us a review. There's absolutely no better way to say thank you than just to give us a quick review. For real, if everybody has hard days, if I have one, this is my favorite place to come. So, if you guys can't tell, this is an absolute passion of mine. I love this job. I love teaching people how to trade. And, the easiest way for me to convince the people that write my paycheck to keep paying for me to do this and have more people come watch is if you guys give a review. So I'm not going to beg for them. A lot of you guys already gave them anyways. But that being said, thanks everybody for coming out. Hopefully I'll have this thing posted here this afternoon. If I can't get it into YouTube, I will share it in the Facebook group or in the Discord server. If you guys don't have those links, if you're not in the Facebook group already, here is the link for you to get in there. Okay, so there's the link to get in there, and then there's also the Discord server, which if you guys haven't seen this, for those of you that don't have Facebook, okay, and I don't like Facebook myself, this is the link for it. And let's go ahead and copy this so you guys can join both of those. Okay, that's how you get into those. But it is Friday, and I did just buy a house. I need to paint bathrooms and stuff this weekend. It should be lots of fun. I'm actually kind of excited about that. It feels like a fun project. But otherwise, should be a very interesting week as the governments around the world continue to try to mess with the people and move the markets, because that's really what the effect is. Okay, all this inflation is a big opportunity. There's going to be a lot more of them coming for the rest of the year. So thanks again, everybody. I'm Will Bridges. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and be good or be good at it. Take care.